All right. Welcome. We are live on the Big Time Boiler Show. My co host, now CT Boiler. You can also call him Cole. Cole, welcome back to the show. It's been quite some time.
Yep, lots happened since I've been on the show. Had another baby, and actually during the Nebraska football game in October, baby boy. So he's 3 months now, and crazy times, but it's been good. And been able to get my Purdue fix in still. So uh, yeah, lots to talk about.
Yeah, there's a ton of talk to talk about on this show. I don't think I've streamed since I didn't remember when. Maybe the IU game. Maybe not even then. It's been a long time. You've had a lot going on. I've had a lot going on. It's yeah, lots going on in Boilermaker world. You kind of wish that things were different sometimes. If we could stream almost sometimes every day there for a while, but
Yeah.
there's plenty of content to talk about. That's for sure. But I guess we're just gonna yeah, kind of just do a quick recap of the Purdue football season since this channel hasn't streamed in some time. Again, we have a lot to kind of talk about. And then we'll also get into basketball, something this channel has not yet talked too much about. So, yeah, and if anyone's joining us, feel free to post some comments and we can get to them. But Cole, I guess we'll start with football. I guess we'll go all the way back. Purdue beats IU, gets to the Indianapolis championship game for the Big Ten. What did you think of that performance against Michigan?
Yeah, so I was actually in attendance for that one.
That's right.
And so Purdue comes out. I think Michigan strikes first for the touchdown, but then, and I think, no, Purdue gets the ball first, goes 3-and-out, pretty ugly 3-and-out. Michigan gets the ball, immediately scores. So you're starting to wonder, oh boy, what are we in for? But then Purdue responds really well and drives down the field, and Tyrone Tracy gets a nice play call, and we thought takes it 20 yards for a score, but then they reviewed it, and then Mockabee scored. But anyway, with that moment where Tyrone Tracy scored, or we thought he scored, the crowd, it was right in front of the Purdue section, and the crowd I thought was just really electric. It was just a really cool moment. Something that, back in 2015 or whatever, it's something that we probably never thought was going to happen. Purdue playing in a Big Ten championship game, going toe to toe with Michigan. So that was just a really cool environment. And obviously Purdue played pretty well most of the game, and then before they eventually trailed off, which I think was probably to be expected going against a Michigan team that definitely, was favored to win and did pretty handily. But Purdue put a good fight, good effort. I think they definitely showed they deserved to be in that game. O'Connell played well, Charlie Jones played well, so it's good to see the studs of the team have a good performance. What ended up being their last performance as Boilermakers. So just a really cool night. I thought, obviously we didn't win, but it was cool to be there.
Yeah, and we've said it all year, going back to whatever it was, August or whatnot, when we were doing our previews, that this was going to be an important year to get to the Big Ten championship game because, there were some uncertainties, heading, there was some rumblings about Jeff Brom leaving, and just obviously the schedule, and, things seem to be breaking the right way for us, that, it was good to see we took advantage to get there. And to me, that was a successful season for sure. And then obviously you lose to Michigan, but, a pretty decent performance. I don't think, nothing we'd be embarrassed about. And then the news, a few days later, was it the kind of the unexpected, because I think at that point, the Jeff Brom to Louisville thing kind of had died down a bit.
Louisville was 7-5. I think they were maybe 4-5 at one point, but then they finished strong. They were making a bowl game. Looked like, that situation wasn't really going to have any movement. And then I think, it was maybe Monday morning, the news came out that Satterfield was leaving to go to Cincinnati on his own. Everyone, the suspicion the whole time was he was going to get fired, and then he decided to get out before the posse got him, probably the year after if he would have stayed. So
Yeah, who knows? Or maybe in even maybe a few days later. I mean, that was
yeah,
to me that news came out of nowhere.
right,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, it was just like, what? I remember I took Adriana to school, and then it came back, went to the bathroom, looked at the phone, and then sure enough, there was the thread saying Satterfield to
yeah,
Cincinnati, and at that point, I knew. I go, oh boy.
yeah. You kind of knew it was where it was going to end up as soon
Yeah,
as
that
that came
yeah.
out.
Yep. I go, well, we're getting a new coach at that
Yeah,
point because there was rumblings all year. I had people tell me that Jeff Braun was gone, like even back in September. That apparently this was all back channel dealings, and
yeah.
apparently
Which is
Brady was telling people this, his son.
that's such an interesting, I think, uh, just piece of information because of those people that were saying all that. I don't think there's any way they could have known that this is how it was going to play out. I mean, um, I think going, I don't know, maybe they knew something that we didn't. Maybe they knew Satterfield was going to be looking for a new job. I don't know, but it seems like it was kind of a surprise how it happened. Not necessarily that it did happen, but how it happened was
Yeah.
surprising to me.
Well, it makes you think too. Who knows? Scott Satterfield may have been, he may have gotten fired. I mean, if
Yeah,
if they got Jeff said we're coming, they may have fired him anyway. So I think the real winner here is Scott Satterfield. I think he escapes and got an escape from jail free card and took it. And
yeah, right, yeah,
we'll see how he does
absolutely.
in Cincinnati. But
Fresh
this is
start
what I
for
was kind of
him.
saying. It would have been nice to have been doing all these streams when the stuff was happening if we
Yeah,
didn't have lives, maybe back in our younger years. But otherwise, so if we recap everything, it could take forever. But yeah, so that was tough to see. Obviously, Ryan Walters gets hired after some crazy speculation about new coaches and Beamer and all that, and some other wild names. But I get, again, I guess we don't want to get into it too much. Otherwise, this would take all night. I guess maybe just recap it or maybe do some simple observations. So far, what's your opinion on the Ryan Walters hire now that we're, what, 1 month in? Or so, almost 4 weeks plus?
yeah. I mean, when the news first came out, initially I was a little underwhelmed just from the standpoint of, with the Babinski press conference the week before or whatever it was, just kind of having the impression that we were going to go and get a sitting, head coach from, whether it be the Big 12, whatever. Um, but trying to attract a big name, I guess, is what the impression I got from Babinski's press conference, and getting a defense coordinator from Illinois, who is a program that traditionally hasn't been very good in the last couple of decades. I don't know. It was a little underwhelming at first, but the more now that he's here, and the more that you hear from him and hear from other people that have been around him, everyone seems to indicate he's a rising star. And the fact of the matter is, Illinois had one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the country last year. And it seems like, the more you find out about it, his involvement is the major reason why that's the case. It's not like he was just some, figurehead that got there and happened to have a really good team and they did well. I think his fingerprints were all over that defense. And then I guess that goes to the, Purdue hiring a defensive coach too. That's another, thing that I think at first maybe wasn't really what Purdue fans were expecting. So it's a little unconventional, I think. But I think the more you find out about him, the more excited you get. And as he's putting together the staff, I think you're not going to find a lot of complaints from people. It seems like he's getting some good guys to come alongside him, attracting some good talent from, they're not. He's taken a lot of pieces from Illinois on the defensive side of the ball. And then he got Patterson, is that his name? Corey.
Yeah. Corey Patterson from St. Louis was the St. Louis high school coach
Yeah, so I think he's the big recruiter for or has been a big recruiter for them. Um, so yeah, and then obviously getting Hudson Card in the portal, which is I guess something else we can talk about later on. But um, all that to say, initially, yeah, I wasn't really sure, but what not really what I expected. But a month in, I'm full support of Ryan Walters. Can't wait for next fall. Excited to see what he can do, and I have full faith.
Yeah, I agree. And funny, I totally forgot that I did live stream after the Michigan game. It was actually right after Jeff Brom got hired by Louisville, and we were discussing possible replacements. I totally spaced that. But during that live stream, I think we mentioned, or I had mentioned that I would kind of a Jim Leonard match with like an offensive guy. Like at that time, I think I even said Brian Brom, have him stay. And the more I thought about that, I think I was talking to Big Ten Ted about it. We're like, that actually could work. A defensive philosophy kind of guy, and then you know a, a good offensive coordinator with his own system. And what Purdue actually did, in my opinion, is they got an upgraded version of that. They got Ryan Walters, who's probably a step above Jim Leonard. Maybe not, but at least I think equal playing field as a Jim Leonard. I think he's got a little more charisma to him, and apparently Jim Leonard's pretty dry from what I heard. He's very laid back.
That was surprising that he's not. Sorry to interrupt, but I thought that's a surprising move that Wisconsin made, and I guess that's really what started this whole thing. Was Wisconsin hiring Luke Fickell?
Yep, that was the domino effect. Well,
yeah,
no. What started this whole thing was Illinois beating Wisconsin like a drum, 31 to whatever it was. That's what started it. And then
Paul Chris getting fired. Yeah,
yeah. There's a meme out there that shows it and say Illinois, this is all your fault.
Yeah.
But Anyway, so we got an upgraded version of Ryan Walters, and then Ryan goes out and hires Graham Harrell, who's a proven commodity and young offensive coordinator, which is fun. I think the average age of the staff is like 37.
30. Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is like almost my age, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, so I agree. I was kind of at first, I was like, kind of the higher. I do remember though watching that Illinois Purdue football game. They talked about Ryan Walters a ton, and they kept talking about how he was going to be a head coach here soon.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was on ESPN. Probably that game was. I'm assuming.
I think so.
So I mean, obviously, they were really chatting him up, and I keep thinking of that when after they named the coach. But anyway, he had a good press conference. Again, this would be a 4-hour show if we keep diving into every little thing. But so the next step obviously is Purdue goes out to a bowl game, gets absolutely blasted, the worst beatdown until the other night.
Yeah, really.
Thanks TCU. Georgia curb stomps TCU, and now everybody forgot. Not that anybody remembered it anyway, but no one is mentioning the LSU Purdue beatdown. But yeah, that's a game or whatever. Everybody half the guys opted out. The coaching staff opted out. I knew they were going to get beat pretty good, but I didn't think it'd be that bad. But unfortunately, when you don't have when you're playing a quarterback that's not able to throw the football, they started that game out okay. But yeah, when your Iowa's offense, when you have a Iowa's type of offense going without the running game or offensive line, there's going to be without the Iowa defense basically. There's going to be issues.
Yeah, makeshift secondary, walk on wide receivers.
And that was the issue. They were just killing us. Yeah,
and then not to mention Reese Taylor goes out very first play,
and then Sawinski goes out the first play. I mean then Branson Dean goes down like this. And it was. And
then
it was a beatdown.
Holsted had transferred, and then you had all the opt-outs on offense. So yeah, and then Hartwig was hurt in the IU game, and yeah, it was really. I mean, I'm not sure how many contributors were playing in that game. When you look at next year, how many of those guys were involved in this game? I don't know. So not. I don't think you got a whole lot of information, especially with Alimo transfer in the transfer portal now too.
Yeah,
it's not. I thought he played decent, but it doesn't really matter for that either because he's
he should have and not, again, not to get too much in this game, but Alimo should have been in a lot sooner than he got in the game. I mean, it was clear as day. I think after the fourth possession that we weren't going anywhere with Austin Burton behind center. He wasn't able to complete the throws, and they kept trotting him out there, and then it was just at that point it's like whatever. But
yeah, I feel bad. I feel bad for him. He came in and played pretty well against FAU and got the win. But yeah, we were just he didn't really have any help out there against them either. We had a skeleton crew on the coaching staff, skeleton crew playing. It was just not. It was a horrible situation.
And it was the worst matchup too. I mean, yeah, LSU, coming off, a couple years off a national title, Brian Kelly, first year head coach. Everybody on that roster is trying to prove themselves to him still. Yeah, not the worst situation we could have had. I wish we would have got Kentucky, a team like that with a similar situation with a lot of players opting out and stuff like that. That would have been a better game. But anyway, that game's done with. Moving on. I don't want to hear a Purdue fan ever mention that game again. Of course, you and I were both at that beatdown. Hopefully, this does not go the same fate as the last bowl game I think we attended as a family in Dallas, if you remember, on the Danny Hope transition to Darrell Hazel. We were witness to that debacle where Oklahoma State was I think it was like 59-7. I don't know what it was, but
yeah,
next 4 years were not good to Purdue football.
No, yeah, that was a very cold.
That was a miserable cold day. Yeah, that was
New Year's Day, I think it was. Or no,
40
I don't
degrees.
remember when it was, but it was
like
freezing.
40 degrees and windy. But anyway, so yeah, this is a completely different situation. Again, I think you said it best. Hardly any contributors were playing. Well, I mean, Maccabee was playing, but again, it was just almost like a bicycle with two flat tires. I mean, yeah. And then again, so Hudson Card, we get him, very nice portal addition, probably one of the best quarterbacks in the portal, has some experience. This is a guy that was ranked number 2 behind Alabama's quarterback, Bryce Young. And did we lose you, Cole? I think you're frozen. Well, yeah, so we nab Cole. Seems like he's frozen, but hopefully we get him back here in a minute. But Hudson Carr, highly rated portal quarterback. Obviously Cole's back. Can you hear me, Cole?
Yep, I trailed off right as you started talking about Hudson Card.
Yeah, I was just saying he's number 2. He was the number 2, rated quarterback, dual threat quarterback coming into the league to the NCAA, and I think it was 2020 he came in.
Was it behind Bryce Young?
Yeah, right behind Bryce Young. So this is like a top 60 recruit. I think probably one of the highest, if not the highest rated recruits we've ever gotten from a high school standpoint, if you go off that. But seems like he's got some wheels on him, a pretty good thrower. So, that's, they say the most important position is the quarterback position. So, and one nice thing too, again, we can be all over the place in this discussion with football, but, it's nice that nobody to this point has followed Jeff Brom to Louisville, besides a few recruits, but no players have. We did lose Jack Sullivan, Branson Dean, and Lawrence Johnson, but even as of even 2 months ago, Tom Dienart was saying, those guys were done at Purdue. They weren't coming back. Yeah. I think Dean, a couple of them we thought would be in the NFL, but so those, to me, those aren't losses. Because we weren't counting on them anyway, and if it wasn't for COVID, they wouldn't be here anyway. But
well, and on top of that, we've gotten good news too with guys who are I think they're probably using their COVID year, like Jamari Brown,
that's a big one.
Potentially
even
Bryce
Cam
Hampton,
Allen.
if he can. Cam Allen, maybe Bryce Hampton if he can get a waiver. So that's really encouraging too. These guys obviously are buying in to what Walters is.
OC Brothers too. He's another one.
Yeah,
coming back. I mean, there was, and again, these are rumors, but I don't think things were as rosy as they appeared. Obviously, maybe there was some I think some behind the scenes issues going on with this team a bit. I mean, the whole Chris Jefferson thing was very weird. There just was. I mean, I think maybe I'm blowing that up a little too much, but I think things weren't, again, as rosy as maybe they appear to some outsiders. I think Jeff Brom, from what I heard from some sources, were that there was going to be quite a few portal entries had Jeff Brom stayed.
Mm.
And those obviously didn't happen. So I don't know. I think honestly this might have been a clean break for all sides. Jeff gets to go home. Jeff Brom did a good. I don't have no ill will against Jeff Brom. He turned Purdue football around. He did what he needed to do. He could have really hurt us if he would have left. Was that 2019?
Yeah, after two or maybe 28.
Was 2018?
After the 2018 season, I think.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah. It was just one season, correct?
No, he was here 2 seasons. It was after, so we went to Arizona. We played Arizona in the bowl game, his first season. Then I think we played Auburn the second season. Got destroyed.
That's right.
And that's
you're
the
right.
off season, I think. Louisville.
Yeah, because you're right. Because Ronald Moore was on the team, and George and David Bill were coming in. So, yeah, had he left that year, I don't. At that point too, I don't think there's a transfer portal.
Yeah, not the same what we know now. Yeah,
there's grad transfers. That would have been absolutely devastating. You probably don't get George. You probably don't get David Bell. Ron Moore probably transfers. I mean, yeah. So Jeff did us a solid. It was pretty good, but again, I think things like with the schedule next year, and again with some stuff, the whole offense philosophy this year was pretty weird too. Aiden just basically throwing in Charlie Jones. That was essentially the offense this year. So yeah, again, it's kind of a clean break for all sides. Really interested to see. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of more movement transfer portal wise for both sides until after spring ball, which honestly might be a good thing, unless I hear there might be 1 or 2 guys we're looking at to bring in, but obviously classes have started. We really only have like a week left, I think, as far as they can add people. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of action there, but which is not a bad thing. I think we have 80 scholarships taken right now, so we have 5 open, but this gives a chance for staff to evaluate everybody fairly in the spring and then have some honest conversations. And then it's not like it's going to be slim pickings. I think the second portal opens, I think, from May 1st to May 15th. So
after kind of the spring 2-deep skit.
And as we saw too, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure. Well, grad transfers can do whatever they want, but I'm just trying to think because some of these guys were like announcing they were going to enter the portal before the portal even opened. They just said, hey, I'm going to be entering the portal, and they sat out, but they weren't officially in the portal. But so you'll probably see that too during spring and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Purdue, add five or so players this spring after the staff gets a real healthy look at it. And I guess maybe again, there's so much stuff we can talk about, but going into the spring and winter conditioning, what are your position groups that Purdue really needs to upgrade from either just a self-improvement coaching standpoint of getting a position up or adding some talent in that group? What are your main concerns for the positions that we really need to work on?
Well, I think you got to feel good about running back with Mockabee and the season he had, and Downing, I think, is a pretty good backup for him. Quarterback, you feel good about adding Hudson Carr, and huge news with Brady Allen coming back.
Big one. That's a big one.
That's
absolutely
a pretty quality 1-2 punch in terms of the quarterback room. Obviously, those guys will be, whether who it is, probably a card, but no matter who plays, it's going to be their first time playing for Purdue. So hopefully they can, have a good spring and show some good progress there. Tight end, we get Garrett Miller back. I don't know when he will be fully recovered. He tore his ACL, so I'm not sure if he's probably not going to play in the spring, but I think you feel pretty good about that position. We'll see what younger guys can step up. I guess we still have Paferi too. I think he's been a really good number 2, really good pass catcher for us.
Oh yeah, he's a great number 2. He's kind of your perfect number 2, and we'll see what he does in the air raid. But yeah, Garrett Miller coming back is absolutely huge. He was one I was worried about.
Transfer,
would be coveted, but he's a Texas kid too, and now he's got a bunch of Texas coaches. With he grew up watching Graham Harrell, or maybe, or at least he knows who Graham Harrell is.
Oh yeah, because Harrell played with Crabtree, I think.
He did, yeah. And then the other guy we just brought in too, I think, was a Texas Tech quarterback that's even younger than
Yeah,
Harold.
Doji,
Dobie or
Seth
whatever his name is. Yeah.
Dogi, or
So,
yeah.
and I think Garrett Miller was. I think he was recruited heavily by Tech. I think that might. Back.
Yeah, some internet issues today.
Yeah. Apologies, everybody. We're having some internet problems. Happens when you travel.
Um, to your question, it's like offensive line could maybe use another piece. I don't know if you're going to find a starter necessarily in the portal, and Eric Miller again coming back is significant for he's started a lot of games, and then
Yeah, what really this group only loses Halstead because then you got even Daniel Johnson who played decently, and then got hurt, and then Simi Finau, however you say his name, who was pretty good, is back as well.
Yeah, so hopefully they can get a few younger guys that can help be depth pieces to, because I mean at the beginning of this season I think they said we had 8 or 9 linemen, and by the end of it I think we had exhausted about 5 of them, I think. So yeah, hopefully we can start the year again with 8 or 9 ready, capable bodies, which I think maybe maybe one portal ad would help for that. But receiver I think is a big question mark.
Huge question mark in my eyes. Yep.
I think you had guys that at times played pretty well, like Mershawn Rice had a lot of good flashes. T.J. Sheffield had a lot of good flashes. But there was a lack, and you kind of touched on this earlier with O'Connell passing so much to Charlie Jones this year. I'm not sure if the inconsistency with these other guys was a result of him, O'Connell, forcing it to Jones or just locking on Jones, or if those other guys just weren't getting open. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer is, but however you want to say it, there was not a really good, not a really consistent passing threat outside of Charlie Jones from week to week. I definitely there's capable players there, but we'll just have to see how that goes in the spring. And yeah, definitely maybe look to add a portal addition in that. I'd say out of all the offense, probably offensive line and receiver would be the 2 places I'd look at.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think offensive line, even just a quality depth piece would be nice. And then running back, another case where obviously Maccabee's great, but in this day and age you need a pretty decent second running back. Downing's not a bad piece there, but Downing would be a really good third running back if they could upgrade to even a guy like the rumor it was possibly Illinois' what's that running back's
Reggie
name
Love.
now? Reggie Love, who was very, very close to Patterson, Coach Patterson, coming from St. Louis, along with Isaiah Williams. If we got him, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
But we'll see about that. But and then wide receiver, as you said, there's definitely talent there from a recruiting perspective and rankings and stuff like that. But yeah, they didn't exactly produce this year. But I don't know if that was their fault, the coach's fault, or O'Connell's fault. But from what I did not go to any games this year. So obviously, when you're at a game, you can see the field a lot better. You can see who's actually open. It's hard to tell when you watch you're watching the game because you can't really see the receivers half the time until the ball's thrown. But I mean, from what I've heard people say that even the LSU game that people were there, there's guys that are open, they're just not getting the ball. But yeah, if we could get a nice big time receiver or even just a speedster out of the portal, that'd be nice. Somebody that a deep vertical threat, but. I'm really interested to see that. I think though with new coaching and some fresh eyes might do that room some good. Moving on to defense, I'm sure I think the defense line is okay. They get
Humpage is coming back.
Yep, Humpage is coming back. Jenkins, who's a very unheralded stud, is coming back. And then I'm thinking DeMarge Lewis is going to be back. You know, Cole Brevard, he's improving. I think they're going to be okay up front. Linebackers and secondary are where the issues are, and I think it's a speed issue. I think the linebacking unit outside of OC Brothers, I think really needs to either get coached up or get some new blood in there. And then secondary, Jabari Brown coming back is big. T. Denson hopefully is going to be healthy. And then Cam Allen coming back, who I think kind of had a bad year this year from a tackling perspective, but it's been pretty solid the last couple of years. Maybe with some new coaching, again, fresh eyes, he gets back to his old form and came back. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, safety, you feel pretty good about just from the experience alone. Like you said, Allen struggled a little bit with tackling this year, but from what I remember, it hasn't been a terrible issue in his career, just especially this year. So yeah, hopefully they can get that fixed up. But they get safeties have good experience. That's good. But yeah, cornerback, I think you have to get some cornerbacks in the program from the portal, and then yeah, maybe some linebackers. I'd say receiver and offensive line on offense, and then cornerback and linebacker on defense.
Yeah, they just need some corners from a numbers perspective. I think
Right,
there's
yeah.
only 4 on the roster or something like that. I mean, they're way down. Yeah, it sounds like again, the coaching staff is pretty much all but filled at this point, besides a running back coach who's not been named. So, but again, I don't think much is going to happen portal wise until spring ball is over. So, I guess with that, unless there's anything else you want to touch on with football, we can after 32 minutes here, we can finally discuss the really hot team, Purdue basketball.
Yeah, like you said, I don't think you've discussed any basketball on your channel, maybe besides like a minute or two.
No, we haven't. Yeah, we didn't do a season preview or anything. How about those Boilers? 15-1. It's funny. I did do a basketball preview on West Virginia channel kind of before the game, and I kind of said, with this team, I think he asked me, what are the expectations in West Lafayette, and I basically said, this is we think we're going to compete in the Big Ten, a top 6 finish, and then an NCAA tournament team, and I think we'd be happy with that. And then
like an 8 or 9 seed.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
Just
yeah.
getting the tournament. Yeah, and then after that, of course, a couple days later, we beat West Virginia, beat Gonzaga, and beat Duke, and from there, really haven't looked back. And we obviously slipped up against Rutgers, but 15-1. What is your biggest? Are you surprised at the record so far? I think you probably have to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in the same camp you were, with kind of expecting them to be a good team this year, and I was maybe higher on them than some other people that I know. But yeah, I did not expect them to be the number 1 team in the country and a Big Ten front runner at this point. That was a surprise. I mean, Zach Edey has been so dominant, and I think the question was, he's going to go from playing 18 minutes a game to how many minutes can he handle, and he's shown that he can play as many as you want to, I think.
Yeah.
And foul trouble hasn't been an issue for him besides the Rutgers game. So he's been, just playing really at such an elite level. I mean, I don't know who would be number 2 in the, Naismith Player of the Year discussion. He's definitely number 1. And then the other big question mark going into the year were our freshman guards who are starting, and I think both of those guys were a little bit of a surprise. I mean, with Braden Smith, maybe there's not as much competition, so he almost had to start. But going into, when they were first getting to campus, I don't think anyone would have expected those two to have the impact that they're having. I mean, it's pretty incredible what they're doing. Multiple freshmen of the week, I think, for both of them. And Braden Smith's from our alma mater, Westfield, so we got to see him play a little bit in high school, and it's really cool to see him in college now, because he played on a good Westfield team. There was some talent, but he scored over 20 points a night every night, and carried a lot of the load, but you could just tell he was such a good distributor of the basketball. Um, and he's really getting to flourish, I think, as a distributor for Purdue, especially I think in the pick and roll game with Edey. I mean, those two have a really strong connection. I think when they do the pick and roll, and we saw it in the Penn State game most recently, where I mean, Edey probably had 10 points just from lob dunks on the pick and roll, and that may be a low estimate there. So it's been really surprising, but they look really good. I love the makeup of this team, the role allocation. Everyone seems to fill a particular spot, and everyone seems to be happy with that particular spot. When you watch the team play, I don't think there's a lot of John with each other, or defeatist looks out there, which I guess we're 15-1, so it would kind of be hard to see that at times with so much success. But I really like the way this team's put together. Painter's done a really good job of getting these guys to get into their role. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, but looking forward to the rest of Big Ten play. We got Michigan State coming up. That's going to be a huge game with them being 4-1 at the top with us tied.
Yeah, I think you said it great. I mean, I think even in that show I did with West Virginia, I said, Zach Edey, his per 40 numbers have always been insane. And this is the guy that has played, I think, pretty much 20 minutes a game. His first couple of years in the at Purdue,
Yeah.
And I go, if he can get to 30 minutes, he's going to put up some numbers. Just can he stay out of foul trouble and can he be conditioned well enough? So far, he has answered that bell. I think I've heard a few people reference him now as like Shaq Edey. Which, I mean, he's basically Shaq right now. And then when you got a bunch of unselfish players around him that can shoot, can pass. I think the biggest surprise to me, obviously, I think the Braden Smith drum started to beat a little bit during camp.
Yeah.
I really talked up about, and we know again. He went to Westfield. That's where we played. We know of him. We knew of him quite a bit. Knew he was a competitor and really good. And he's a really good point guard. The guy that I think, though, I mean, he obviously is still a surprise. Though. I don't think he was going to be this good. The guy I think, though, is the biggest surprise on the team to me is Fletcher Lawyer. I mean, that dude is just. I mean, I knew he was a good player, but I thought he was just like pretty much a shooter, kind of like a Ryan Smith, if you will. He is a lot more than that. I mean, Fletcher Lawyer should have been a 5-star prospect. I mean, this guy can shoot it. He can put it on the floor. He's 6'5". I mean, he honestly reminds me of a guy that ends up at Duke back in the day, almost like a Kyle Singler type player. One of those dudes that we always hated that played on, put the Duke jersey on. That was a good 6'5", could shoot. Just made winning plays. He reminds me of that. And Braden Smith kind of reminds me of a Duke point guard too. It's like we got a couple Dukies wearing the Purdue black and gold, and they're freshmen. That's what's insane too. And it's not like they're going to go to the NBA anytime soon. And I think the great college players, Fletcher Lawyer could have a career in the NBA. I think eventually, just because they always take a shooter that has some size. Braden Smith, unfortunately, he might be able to make it, but we'll see. But my point is, I don't think these guys aren't one and dones.
Right.
They're going to be around for at least 2 more seasons, so that's fun to look to. And heck, I mean, Zach Edey, there's whispers more and more that he possibly could come back for 1 more year. That's obviously too early to tell if there, but what's the Kentucky big man's name?
Sheway.
I mean, you can look at that situation. Kind of, the NBA is a place where bigs kind of go to die these days, or even Illinois. I'm drawing all kinds of blanks tonight, but gosh, what's Illinois
Kofi.
center? Kofi, thank you, Kofi Coburn. Where's he at? Right.
Hunter Dickinson too with Michigan came back probably a
Yeah.
year, 10 year or 5 years ago, he wouldn't have come back, but he's back
Oh
because
yeah.
NIL.
Kofi did not come back, and where's Kofi at? Is he even in the league?
I don't know. He did come back the extra year last year. He could have gone 2 years ago, but came back.
That's true. Yeah, but he
But
was. Yeah, they're talking about him coming back again, and he because they're going to pay him, I think, even millions of dollars in NIL money,
yeah,
or at least $1 million, and he said no. Um, and who knows? I mean, I'm sure Zach Edey could get a in out, especially because I think Zach Edey, if he continues this way, will be the player of the year. He will get NIL money from somebody. Um, if he decides to come back to Purdue one more year, and then gosh, next year's team would, I think, they don't lose anybody, right?
Jenkins would be the only
That's right. Yeah, you're right. Jenkins.
the
Yeah.
only projected loss as of now, and then you add Miles Colvin. So I mean, yeah, next year could be a very good year. If this year could be a very good year, but yeah, the job Matt Painter's done is, I mean, is very good. When I was in school, we had the 2012 and 2013 Johnson brothers teams, and
Ugh.
the low point for Matt Painter. I'm sure he would say so. But the way he's dug out of that, and the consistently skilled and competitive rosters he's put together, even with guys leaving, he's always getting guys to replace them. And I think this is probably his best group, top to bottom, that he's had, and that's why they've spent 4 weeks at number 1 and now sit at number 3.
I'm glad you said it last point. I'll get to Matt Painter in a second, but why this thought is in my head, I'm gonna say it. Ask you, who would win, this team or the team that was there when I was in school that went as high? I think they were going to be number 1, and then Robbie got hurt. That 2009 2010 team, was it 2019 2010 team when Robbie got hurt?
I believe so. That was when he got hurt the first time.
The first time against Minnesota. That's when they were on a tear. Yeah, who would win that game? Where you got Juwan Johnson, Robbie Hummel, Etwan Moore,
juniors,
Keaton Grant, and Chris Kramer. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I was a senior. Yeah, you're right. I was a senior, so it would have been 2009, 2010.
That's a good question. I mean, I think that's a team that everyone kind of has nostalgia for, just because you have a group of guys that basically led the turnaround of Purdue basketball as we know it now.
That team was good.
And you have guys like Chris Kramer, who's
really good.
Yeah. Now, they definitely did not have the same depth, though. That's good point. Not really up for debate. But I mean, starting 5, with the fact that Purdue is leaning on these freshmen so heavily, I would definitely, you might have to lean towards the starting 5 of the baby.
Well, honestly, though, I think what would happen is, who's going to guard Zach Edey? I mean, Juwan would have got, I think, posterized in there.
Yeah.
He was, 6'11", 220 pounds soaking wet. I mean, that would have been, I think, a huge advantage, Edey. You're right. The depth is where the concern would be, because then Juwan gets 2 fouls, let's say. Who was the backup center for that team?
I think Chalison.
Senior? No, I think he was gone at that point. That's a good question. Let's look at that roster. I thought it was almost Patrick Beatty was the backup center.
I think he might have been I think that year. Well, yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, you're right. Edey would feast, no matter who it was.
Yeah, maybe Chalison was there. But yeah, Edey would feast. As you said, depth would be a problem. But yeah, I think outside of Edey, though, I think that team was probably better as of right now from, against these freshmen. Kramer and Grant were excellent defenders. And you had Robbie and stuff like that. But anyway, but you're right. From top to bottom, this team is great. What do you think, though, is their biggest weakness?
Well, I mean, I think if you're just looking at the numbers, it has to be the shooting, which is frankly a pretty big surprise.
I think it's a huge surprise. Yeah.
But at this point, we're 16 games into the season, so the numbers are kind of what they are, and it at most of the times has not been a very good shooting team. But if you look individually down the roster, you have guys that are good shooters. You got Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, Braden Newman, Mason Gillis has had a good percentage in the past. David Jenkins has made, hundreds of threes as a
40% in his career. Yeah.
I mean, all these guys can shoot the lights out, but it just hasn't come to fruition this year, which is even more shocking when you consider the attention Zach Edey gets. But I guess maybe that just speaks to the upside of this team if they can finally start to get it.
I think it does, honestly.
And I think maybe we've started to see that with Fletcher the last two games, or the second half at least for Ohio State, and then the game against Penn State. I think he shot a lot better in those games. Yeah.
I mean, that's what my biggest surprise with Fletcher is. People were comparing him like a Ryan Smith, Ryan Smith and what's his name?
Dakota
Klein. Sorry,
oh.
Ryan Smith and Ryan Klein. But those guys never took the ball to the rack. I mean, Klein did occasionally, very, very rarely. He's so much more than that. He's not just a shooter, which helps because I think that's actually the X factor. Because if he was just a shooter, and he has struggled a little bit with his percentages, this team would not be where they're at currently. But he does so much. He can actually take the ball off the dribble, has a nice pull-up game, take it to the rack. Him and Smith are such a good backcourt, and they're freshmen. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it will happen, but if we can get 4 years of those guys, I mean
would that be the best? Was that the best backcourt tandem of all
Purdue's
time?
Accomplished a lot of good things, I think, if those guys play 4 years together.
Their numbers would be. Their numbers honestly might be the best if they do stay 4 years and they're healthy for 4 years, and you compare them to probably, a duo. I mean, they have to be up there just for the fact they played 4 years and they played so high. Such a high level.
By the time their careers have been over, they would have started, 100 over 100.
And they're already playing like seniors in the junior and senior level.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy. But yeah, I think Painter's definitely hitting his stride. And that's why now you're seeing he's getting a lot of love from the national media.
Well, and it's at a great time too, because you got guys like Coach K retiring, Jay Wright,
Wright, yep, exactly.
All these, Roy Williams retired 2 years ago.
Izzo's getting old.
Yeah, it's time for that new wave of coaches, and it's starting to look like Matt Painter might be at the forefront.
Beard beat up his girlfriend, so he's out.
Yeah.
Painter's he's the guy, and that's why he's been being mentioned for the Kentucky job and the Texas job. But Painter's not a big NIL fan. I don't think he doesn't like the boot. He likes the old school game. I don't see him going to a Louisville, a Kentucky, where he knows that just it's insane with the boosters and all that stuff. And I think he's a guy that truly likes Purdue for what it is. And he's about to get a massive raise. I know that. He'll probably double his salary.
Yeah.
For next year.
Yeah, I can't imagine him leaving Purdue.
I just, like I said, he's not the way he's wired and the way he's not a guy that, again, I don't think he likes. I think he thinks Purdue's probably the perfect fit for him. It's almost like a mid-major, not atmosphere. That's not the right word, but even expectations. That's not right either. It's just not it's not out of control. I guess it's the perfect in control environment that you can have in college basketball, where it's not, fans' expectations might get out of control here and there, but you don't have crazy boosters that, are trying to just wreck the program. We're not Kentucky or anything or Texas, just throwing money at everything. So, but yeah, the other thing is, I think have we played maybe we have, and I'm just drawing a blank. Have we played like a really athletic team that are just full of dudes that are like 6'6", plus, 6'9", 6'10", just lengthy athletes?
Well, I think the two teams most recently that come to mind are Ohio State and Rutgers. I think they both fit that category. And then I think you have to consider Gonzaga and Duke in that category too, just with all the NBA level athletes that are on those teams too.
Yeah, I'd say Duke's probably a good one. That's true. Yeah, we have. So yeah, like I said, we have. I guess we really haven't. I guess I'm thinking we haven't played like an Arkansas where like a high, full court in your face um,
Yeah,
pressure. But you're not really going to see that in the Big Ten. And again, I think this team also though the nice thing about this team is they're finding ways of winning in the Big Ten. But as we saw in the preseason tournaments, I think this is a really good tournament style team where
yeah,
um, traditionally, Purdue does well in the Big Ten, and then they get to tournament play and they kind of struggle. But I think in reverse order, this team is actually a better tournament team than they are going to be a Big Ten team.
yeah.
So I guess that'd be my next question too: is how do you see we're 4-1? How many games are played in the Big Ten these days?
20, I believe.
20. So yeah, I think you're right. 20. Any predictions on what Purdue will finish up for the Big Ten season, and will they win it? At least the regular season time.
Yeah. So they're 4-1 now. I'm gonna say, I'll say 15-5 is what they end up record wise, and I would say that probably would put them in first place standalone. The Big Ten's just top to bottom. The Big Ten's really good. Well, it's really deep. I'm not sure how many elite level teams are at the top, but you go down the list, and there's some good teams all the way at the bottom even that are going to be able to challenge you on a nightly basis. So there's definitely going to be some more losses coming. Hopefully no more home losses. You'd love to be able to defend your home court the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine a few slip-ups.
Yeah, I agree. But to that point, though, I would have taken, and I've heard, I think the guys on Boiler Breakdown said it, I would take 2-1 out of that 3-game stretch all day.
Absolutely.
You would have said, we'll give you 2-1. I would have taken that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, they definitely made up. They made up for that loss for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for them going 2-1. Like I said, I think the shooting's going to get better. I would not be surprised though to see Purdue drop a few. And if they do, hopefully the fans won't lose their mind. It still is a young team. Again, I think this is going to be a better tournament team than it is a Big Ten team. Although I think 15-5 is probably a pretty good assessment. IU appears like they're going downhill fast with their injury problems and just overall problems. Illinois is a mess. Those two were the favorites, weren't they? Illinois and
yeah, I think most people had those two at the top.
And then Michigan even too. I think Michigan was up there, and they're kind of a dumpster fire, and just Illinois is a real dumpster fire.
They've won 2 in a row now. After Sky Clark announced his departure, that maybe it's some addition by subtraction thing going on.
Yeah, they might be. They might.
There's a lot of season left, and Michigan's kind of playing better than they were. But yeah, IU is certainly trending downward. But Iowa, there's another team that was trending down that's changed their course.
Honestly, too, Purdue started off really hot. We all know that. After they won that tournament, they definitely deserved the number 1 ranking. But they have not exactly, sans these last couple games, even going to the Rutgers game, they had not really been playing like the number 1 team.
Yeah, right.
They were playing like a top 10 team, or top 15 team, but they had not. They showed some chinks in the armor a little bit. But the fact that they were still winning those games, to me, was a big deal, and they were maturing. They lose the Rutgers game, which sometimes a loss isn't the worst thing. Maybe that kind of got their attention a little bit, and they came out and played awesome, or played very well against Ohio State, and played very, very well against Penn State. And as you said earlier, man, Braden Smith, the way he played in that game was, 5-star status. He's got to be one of the best point guards in the country, not just the Big Ten, in the country right now.
Yeah, the way he controls the team is very impressive for any level of player, let alone a freshman.
Yeah, and then it's hilarious that I saw. I think is it Cannon Catchings, the guy from Brownsburg? He's in Brownsburg, right?
Yeah,
I believe he actually just went down in the rankings that were just released, which is insane considering that he's like grown and he's grown into his body and he's like dominating. And Matt Painter recruited him. You think these guys would learn by now?
Yeah, right.
Painter wants them on their team. They're probably pretty good. He's a very good evaluator of talent. Probably one of the best in the business. But yeah. Maybe we'll end with this. What would be? And actually, I'll ask you a football question here in a second too. Kind of end it as well. So it is this basketball season again. I think we all kind of were were wanting or expecting an NCAA tournament appearance and a pretty decent, fun season, competitive season, I think we all would have been happy. Well, then Purdue goes out and dominates that tournament, and they get the number one ranking, and expectations went through the roof. What? So I guess my question is, what are to you now? What is going to be a successful season? Looking back in 2023, when the tournament's over, we're in April. What's going to be satisfaction to you? I mean, is it Final Four bust at this point?
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, the fact that they're number one in the country, I guess, would maybe lend to believe that. But since they started the season with such meager expectations, I guess, I think it's hard to do a total reset and put that on them, just because some of those same question marks will still be there with like the freshmen and the foul trouble for Zach Edey potentially. I don't think that's still going to be there. I think so. If that pops up in a game in March, that's totally possible. So I guess I would lean more towards second weekend as the baseline. But if they're a 1 seed though, or a 2 seed, it's certainly
that's the problem. If they get a 1 seed, I mean,
yeah.
But this is a team, like you said, it's a young team. I mean, it's a team that might get upset in the second game.
Right. Yeah.
But that's a lot. I mean, but yeah, I feel like again, I just kind of look at myself, and again, a little more level-headed. But again, not many expectations going into the season. Went to number one, and still like this team, they're fun to watch. They're awesome. They're one of the best teams Painter's ever had, if not the best team. But they are still young. They struggle from time to time in a few areas. They can be beaten. But they're number one. So, fans are, they're going to expect, if we struggle in the tournament, they're going to be pissed. But that's a long way off. I think these next 15 games are really going to tell us, I think maybe the next 15 games really tell us where we should have our expectations going into postseason play. Because to me, I'm still just enjoying it, just enjoying watching good basketball. The guys are fun to watch. They pass well. They shoot well. The only guy that drives me crazy, and he's such a good, I think who I'm going to say, but he's such a good glue guy. But man, if he could shoot or do something on offense, talking Ethan Moore, I mean, it drives me nuts. And they're starting to really sag off of him on defense.
Well, and he's shown he can make the 3 too. So
yeah, I mean he has. We also shown he can brick it every time too.
Well, yeah, especially this season, especially. Yeah,
I thought he was a pretty decent shooter in high school. That's what I'm kind of surprised by a little bit. Yeah, it's almost like, man, I think for them to take the next, even if like Brandon Newman, because I got to give props to Brandon Newman, a guy that stuck around and still not getting a ton of minutes, gotten pretty decent minutes, but his defensive game has really, really gone to the next level compared to what it was for him. He's playing pretty decent defense. Man, if we had, even him at all clicking at all cylinders, or a guy like him, or Morton could shoot better. I mean, this team I think goes up even another level with another scorer out there.
Newman played a lot in the Rutgers game, and I thought that second half Purdue. The second half of the Rutgers game, I thought Purdue played really, really well.
They were down what? They were down 21-31, I think, at halftime.
They were down 10 at halftime, and then Rutgers hit a 3 like the very first possession. So they were down 13 essentially with 19 minutes, 30 seconds left, and they lost by 1. So I mean they were the better team in the second half. They just had such a big hole. But Brandon Newman, I thought, was a big part of that reason why they were playing so well in the second half.
Yeah, just something to keep an eye on. I think sometimes we're going to need Morty to really step it up offensively, and hopefully he can improve that outside shot.
It was I think a Ohio State game, he had 10 points, his first time in double digits in his Purdue career, I believe. So Morton, that is.
Mm-hmm.
That was a positive development there.
Yeah, I mean he's a guy too that maybe again he scored quite a bit in high school. course, so did Austin Parkinson. I remember Dad always yelling about him, a guy that scored, I think, 30 points a game in high school, then goes to college and just completely forgets how to put the basketball in the hoop. He scored like 1 point a game. Great coach, I think, now too, Austin Parkinson, I believe. He was a women's basketball coach. I can't remember where he's at, but yeah, exciting. Again, just exciting to watch this team play.
Enjoying the ride.
Just enjoy like you said, just enjoy the ride, Purdue fans, please. Maybe that's the best way is don't put any expectations on these guys right now. Just enjoy them for what they are, a young basketball team with Shaq in the middle. 2 18-year-olds, and that heck, Morton's a junior, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, First is sophomore. Young team. First has been starting, correct? The last couple games, right?
Yeah, Gillis after the Portland
Injury.
tournament, Gillis missed a few games, and
missed a few games, and he's not started since
the lineup, which is a whole nother discussion. But him and Zach, I think, really play really well together. Gillis, that is. So I really like when those two play together, and then I think First and Kaufman-Wren have a good thing going in the second unit. But Kaufman-Wren hasn't been playing as much now that we're in Big Ten season, I think. So I trust Painter on that one, but I really like the Gillis and Edey pair.
Yeah, that's a good point too. In these last couple of games, admittedly, I think I've watched quite a bit of the Rutgers game, but not the other two. I think Gillis has not done a whole lot, correct, in the last couple of games.
Right. First has been, I think, playing the most minutes of the four.
Man, he's such a good offensive rebounder. First, he's just got a nose for the ball. He's really good. But good things coming. Jesse Wells, when were the new rankings released? I assume you're talking about the recruiting rankings. That was released, I think. I don't know if that was On3 that did that. I think those were like a week or two ago, I believe, the newest updated. But honestly, I don't even pay attention to rankings anymore with Purdue and Painter. Just trust in Painter. He knows what is going to fit in his system. I think he's proved it so far the last couple of years, ever since as Cole said earlier, the debacle, the Johnson years, where things just Anthony Johnson, Ronnie, and poor Tyrone. But yeah, I think in on this. What with Purdue's, this might be. I think this might be too early to say this, but Purdue football next year, you thinking 6-6 would be a pretty successful season based on just what we know right now in that schedule?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I think it's kind of like when Jeff Brom got here, maybe for different reasons, but look at it as 6-6 being an accomplishment, definitely an accomplishment. I'm not even sure if Purdue can get that next year with the way things are lined up, but yeah, more so just interested to see how the overall team looks, I guess, how they look week to week, maybe rather than the win-loss record.
Yeah, good point. Like I said, I think again, just to recap it, I think it might be a good thing, good timing with the schedule. Maybe we needed some new blood. Again, Jeff Brom did his job, got out of here, and he's obviously I think he's gonna do pretty well at Louisville with that NIL money machine they got going on. They seem like they're recruiting very well.
They've been active in the portal. They've been getting a lot of guys.
Yeah, and they're, I think, paying money to them. It helps when you've been paying players for years and then now it becomes legal. Those systems are already in place.
Right. They're ahead of the game.
And now Jeff, I think honestly, Jeff basically just gets the coach. Doesn't really have to do anything recruiting wise. Say I want this guy, and then they show up, they give them their money, and they sign up. But
yeah,
it'll be interesting to watch them from afar. But yeah, I think, like I said, I'm very interested to see what Ryan Walters does and this whole staff. I think maybe with the group he has, this kind of unique situation too. Again, Purdue did not lose that many players outside of the couple that we thought, weren't coming back anyway. Mm-hmm. And, there's some talent on this team. There's some experience. Maybe he does what he did with Illinois and he coaches them up and he puts a nice defensive system together, and we got the quarterback now in Hudson Card. So, but yeah, with that schedule, I'm just looking forward to that Fresno State game and getting a victory there and going from there. But with that, we've gone over an hour. I know we've had some technical issues. I don't know if you heard what I was saying, Cole, earlier, but Jesse asked about the new rankings for when they released. I think they were a couple weeks ago when catchings dropped. But I basically said, at this point, I don't even pay attention. I honestly don't pay attention to high school basketball recruiting anymore. I don't care. Yeah. I just even there was a point where I used to read religiously what Brian Newbert put in his Boiling Over, and I would look at every recruit for basketball. Now I honestly pretty much skip over them, and I just wait till they commit to Purdue and just assume that they're going to be pretty good players. Because Painter has proven he has a very good eye for talent. Even the players he's not gotten over the past few years, or not few years, but it's the last 10 years or so, where he, we're on some players that went to other programs that were obviously very good, turned out very good. So, anything else you want to add?
Nope. That's all I got.
All right, well, guys, appreciate everyone that watched or will be watching when this post later. But yeah, sorry it's been a while, and sorry if the quality was low. My microphone broke on the plane ride over. So, all right, Cole, we will see you later. Until next time, maybe a couple weeks, we'll have another mid-season recap. I guess mid-Big Ten season recap. Maybe at that point, we'll know where we're at 10 games in.
Maybe we'll be back to number 1 by that point. We can hope.
Maybe.
Someone needs to beat Houston.
Yeah, with that schedule, they might be. Yeah, what a joke. That schedule's a joke. They probably won't lose for a while. All right, signing off. Boiler up, and God bless.
All right. See you.